Hear the whispers from within, balance to restore, ailings to relieve. Feel the nature keeping us, nature healing us, flowers, leaves, and roots within. Hear the mind calming you, soothing you, love and kindness inside out. Let the herbs from middle world heal. Welcome wellness, welcome wellness. It's revealed herbs, middle world herbs.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Natural Wellbeing Show with Middle World Herbs. We're so excited to have you here. We go live every Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, but we're actually going to possibly be adding in a second day. So to be announced, that's coming up during the summertime. Very exciting. And each week we talk about a different aspect of health. Today's episode, we're deep diving into brain health, which is super exciting. And we're going to really focus on cognitive health. So we talk with an expert each week. It's Dr. Jacquie Leone. We're so excited to have her. And this week we're talking about mental acuity and just different ways to support our focus, our memory, our concentration, and just how to get into that top peak performance for cognition. My name is Deanne and I am your host. And let's bring in our special guest, Dr. Jacquie. She is a naturopathic medical board certified holistic nutritionist and enthusiasts. Welcome. Always good to see you. And with brain health being our topic today, let us know just kind of a little bit of your introduction and maybe a tie-in to the topic.
Yes. So I am a naturopathic doctor, and we definitely believe heavily, we're talking about cognition today. So there's a huge mind-body link, right? Our mind affects our health directly, our physical body, and our physical body can impact our mind. And I didn't really kind of know the difference through, sifting through that when I was curious in my late teens and early 20s and in college. So I kind of dabbled in different classes to expand my understanding. And what I thought was really interesting is philosophy is really similar to psychology. And psychology is kind of the study of the self, right? Of the psyche. And philosophy is just kind of supposing what is anything, really. What is life? What is the soul? What is the mind? And I think my favorite thing when I was in school, which led me further when I was in medicine and just through psychology, is the difference between the brain, which is the organ, and the mind, which is the quote unquote machine that makes and dictates how the machine works. And I thought that that was absolutely fascinating. And to this day, a lot of people really confuse the two or consider them to be the same, but they are somewhat different. And so in my philosophy class, freshman year in undergrad, I will remember, I have to figure this out. And that just really slowly but surely led into the whole mind versus body, mind versus brain, mind versus soul, and all that cool fun stuff. And so there's still no hard and fast rule or definition, which I think is why I really love those questions and concepts, is we'll always be learning about them. Right? There's no ceiling to that information. So.
Totally. Yeah, it's such a fascinating topic. So just if you were joining us right now, we're going to get into 3 different supplements, and these all are going to help support your brain and nerves. So we have our cognitive support, and then we have our mushrooms. This one's a really cool formula. And then also we have sleep support. So that's one of our newer ones that we have. And if you've joined us before, I have some good news. As promised, the sleep support supplement is now available. So for a while it wasn't, but it is now available. So we'll be discussing that formula as well. Also, be sure to hit the like button to follow us. Just hit the little follow. And if you've already done it, thank you so much, because that really helps us to just get seen more on Amazon and spread the good words of health and nutrition to people. So Dr. Jacquie, cognitive health is just such a fascinating topic. And can you share with us one of your fascinating stories that has to do with the mind? I know you always have good stories.
Yes. Stories about the mind. Let's see. Well, I kind of gave it away a little bit in my intro, but I think it's fascinating that psychology didn't start as a study until the 1800s, but it was posed as a question for what it is and how it relates to us almost 200 years before by philosophers. So like I was saying, that there's an inherent link there. So historically, we have been as mankind, womankind, peoplekind, trying to figure out who we are, what makes us who we are, what are the different factors, variables, experiences, and anatomy that go into making us more than just the sum of our parts, right? Because you can put together parts, but there's not going to be animated life. So what is that life? Is it soul? Is it spirit? Is it mind? Is it brain? Anyhow, so I think that kind of history of constantly teasing out that knot, mind versus brain. So a cool thing about the brain is it cannot feel pain. The brain physically cannot feel pain. That is why people can be completely wide awake during brain surgery. So that's the organ. So if the organ can't feel pain, how do our thoughts or our mind, the machine in the brain, our thoughts create physical pain? All emotions are in the body. They're not experienced in the brain. They're experienced physically in the body, which I think is cool. So the brain isn't saying body feel pain, right? The nerves and the neurotransmitters and the stress hormones and all the stuff we release when we have certain thoughts or experiences, that is what is creating emotional pain in the form of physical pain, which I think is awesome. It's not the actual brain experiencing it. And then for mind, 95% of what we do is subconscious, meaning our non-conscious mind can't even necessarily access a lot of the driving forces behind the decisions that we make. So there's a brain one for you, and there's a mind one for you, because I think that they're kind of two sides of the same coin, right? But I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, that's so weird. I never even thought of that, or knew. I mean, I think I knew that the brain couldn't feel pain, but I never really thought about the fact that you like think you're sad or you see something sad that you're feeling. It's all bizarre to me. Okay, I go down the rabbit hole with that.
Yeah, I think we think that we're experiencing pain on like the brain level. Like our brain is sending out signals saying this is painful. When in reality, we're having a physical experience, right? We're having a physical experience or reaction to something happening. And it's up to our brain and our subconscious to decipher it. Like, well, the last time this happened, we weren't safe. The last time this happened, there were bad consequences. So that must mean this time all those things are still true, right? So we learn to kind of live in this kind of reactionary state unless we really work to be mindful, because that's just kind of how the brain works. It's really a very basic human thing, but that's why it's so important to stay mindful.
Wow, that's just fun. I don't know. I just think of like the saddest movie I've ever seen, and how you watch it and you start crying. It like genuinely hurts. Like it hurts you.
Yeah.
But wow, it's such a weird physical thing.
Physically, yes. So and then I think about physically. I know we have a lot to cover, but physically, where are we feeling it? Usually it's our chest or our gut, and most people. Yeah. Sometimes it's your head or behind your eyes. But what do stress hormones do? They increase the heart rate and they restrict digestion, right? So it's all just physical. It's all just physiological. Wow. But we assign a meaning to it, which then equates to an emotion, which then, fulfills a subconscious belief that this experience is sad. Yep, it's sad. I'm experiencing physical pain, anchored. This is sadness. Okay, for next time, right? And then something similar happens. You get the same physical experience. And the last time this happened physically, it was sadness. So this must be sadness. And that's how we learn to interact with our environment. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's accurate and helpful and protective. And sometimes it's unnecessary and can be degrading. So it's all about being mindful of those patterns, which I think is awesome. That we can change it. Cool. Yeah.
Yes, we have that ability to change it. Totally. Well, moving on to some frequently asked questions about cognitive health. So there are things we just often wonder about. And Dr. Jacquie, how do you recognize signs of cognitive decline?
Oh, okay. That's a good one. So as we age, it's inevitable we're going to become more forgetful. It's just neurons don't fire as quickly, right? The electricity is just a little slower. It's just kind of inevitable. Now, there are ways that we can prevent it from going south too quickly or too severely, of course. But I mean, a normal forgetfulness, like, oh, what was the name of that actor? Or, man, I completely thought my appointment was 5, but it was 4. You knew there was an appointment, but the time's slightly off. Those things happening here and there intermittently is totally fine and a normal, process of aging to some degree. But when you're forgetting the appointment altogether, or the date that you made, important birthdays, anniversaries that you did remember, recent conversations or events that have occurred, if you feel really overwhelmed making plans and you can't kind of keep things straight, you trail off in the middle of a discussion or conversation with the person because you're not really sure what you were talking about anymore. If you have a great sense of direction and then you get confused a lot, these basic things, if they're happening chronically, like every day, every couple of days, then that's a sign that cognitive decline could be there. Also, now that's kind of dementia-like cognitive decline, but you can also have cognitive decline that's short-term and circumstantial, like new medication, recent trauma that happened, nutrition deficiency. All these things can also cause that. And so I think that it can be dementia related, but it can also just be something physiological that's happening, that once we change that, the cognitive decline isn't as bad. Also, like brain fog, lack of concentration, all that stuff, Like if you used to be able to sit down and read 3 chapters in a book, and now 3 pages in, you're repeating the same page over and over again because it's not sticking, and that's happening for months, that's probably a sign that there's some cognitive decline, just as an example.
Is there anything else that triggers cognitive decline?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things will trigger cognitive decline. We talked about in previous episodes the importance of antioxidants and the damage oxidative stress can do, right? From toxins and just internal stress from our life, external stress from smoking, from, alcohol, from all the things. So we want to be conscious of our environment as well, but then we bring in the whole, genetics. Did our family have cognitive decline, dementia, Alzheimer's, anything like that? Our education level, usually the more we have challenged ourselves or learned, the denser our neural nets. And so that can be preventative care, actually. Have we had brain injury or head concussion? Do we have diabetes, hypertension? Because all that stuff is going to affect how the brain works, right? So think about diabetes as a blood sugar issue. Well, the brain runs on glucose, which is blood sugar. So if there's an imbalance there, it could affect the brain and cognition. Likewise, cardiovascular problems. If you have high blood pressure or something like that, not enough blood is getting to the brain, and oxygen and nutrients get to the brain, and that's how it functions as well. So we have to kind of consider, is there other stuff going on that the decline is secondary to that? So these are all kind of lifestyle comorbidities / other diseases / lifestyle stuff that we could do and or avoid if we don't want to see cognitive decline at least.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, let's kind of switch gears. So what is flow state and how do we get into it?
Flow state. Ooh. Okay, well, flow state. So interesting. I didn't see that question. I don't have that question.
Pop quiz.
Okay, so to me,
back to it.
No, because I know this. I'm like looking for the answer, like I don't know it. Okay, so a flow state is essentially where we've removed as many conscious and subconscious barriers from a process as possible, to where we are no longer, our ego isn't as involved, or that aspect of our mind that is the inner critic isn't kind of overseeing the process. There's an inherent intuitive creativity happening. We are at our purest nature. And flow state is usually when there's least resistance occurring. And what does resistance look like? Oh, I don't want to do it. Or like, I need to do it because it's a paycheck, but I don't really want to. Or, where there's any level of just resistance to what you're doing mentally, energetically, that's going to create a dissonance and a lack of alignment, right, with your flow state. So any of us who have ever been in flow state, it's very effortless. You throw yourself into your art or your work or a hobby, and before you know it, 4 hours went by when it felt like 20 minutes. When you're doing something that feels real and authentic, flow state is when everything is kind of working together in harmony, almost as if you're just your pure, unadulterated, energetic self, which I know sounds a little kind of esoteric or out there, but I think essentially when I hear stuff like that some people might say is a little woo-woo, I feel is very real. I think it's about coherence. Our brain is an electrical machine. Our heart is an electrical machine. And coherence means when things match up. So flow state, to me, we can say the energy's aligned, right? And it sounds woo-woo, but what we're meaning is the electrical transduction of the brain and the electrical transduction of the heart are firing in coherence. And that rhythm creates this, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. I feel like this is flow state. Like you just feel this very natural, easy, you're in the right place at the right time doing the right thing, right? And you're just lost in it. And to me, that's flow state. So that coherence of our electric transduction, essentially. But it just means the vibe's right.
Yeah. I was gonna say, if you think it's woo, then you need to like kind of rethink your whole life, because if you've never felt it, then you're probably in the wrong field. Because once you like align everything, it's like, so to be in flow state is so awesome. And to, like you said, to get rid of the like, I have to do this. Well, you know, if it's something you would do for free anyways, like you're probably in flow state because you're enjoying it. But yeah,
exactly.
Totally.
That's a great way to judge it too. Is like, would I be doing this with my free time anyway? Then that, you know, that there's a lack of resistance there. And if we can lead a life that lowers resistance as much as possible, then that's the life of flow state. You know, your life is flow state, your life is joy. So I think that that's really powerful, that we have that ability to tap into that whenever we want to.
Totally. And it doesn't have to be work. It could be like, if you love to garden and like, you know, you're out there for 4 hours, but you
just walking,
reading a book,
whatever.
anything.
Yeah. You can be in flow state sleeping. You can be in flow state taking a nature walk. You can be in flow state reading a book. And, you know, it doesn't have to be super active. It can be a flow state of passivity, meaning you're receiving information, you're hearing nature, you're feeling the air on your skin, the sun on your skin, you're smelling the air, you know, the rain that's coming, whatever it is. Like that's a very mindful flow state as well, but it's a passive, you know, everything's linking up energetically and electrically passively, right? Versus taking that alignment and using it to produce something greater than ourselves, like our work or the way we connect and love another person or our families or help our communities, right? So you can definitely have active and passive flow state for sure.
So cool. All right. Well, for everyone listening, if you guys have questions, throw them in the chat. Thank you, Crystal, who just started following us. And anyone else who hasn't followed yet, hit that follow button. That'd be awesome. So there are many benefits around cognitive health. Many beliefs, I should say. Some are true and some are just like old wives' tales. So let's do a quick round of true or false. I have 5 questions about cognitive health. Just take your guess along with us. I usually try to guess too, and I have not looked at these ahead of time. So here we go. Question number 1. Poor mental health increases the risk of chronic physical conditions like heart disease, stroke, or cancer. So poor mental health is going to increase that. Ooh. I'm going to go with yes, true. James said true. Abby said true.
Poor mental health increases the risk of chronic physical conditions is absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Okay.
If we have poor mental health, again, it's the mind-body connection. Everybody's absolutely right. And anybody who has been in a bad mood or through a breakup where your mind is mainly affected, or your thoughts or your mental health, your body's probably going to be affected, right? And that happens long enough, or you live in that poor mental health state long enough, and then we start to see chronic disease like heart disease, stroke, cancer development, and things like that, for sure. Yeah.
Well, in case you guys haven't seen, I don't know if I can like lift my shirt up enough, but I'm wearing a shirt that says "Find the Happy" because of our topic today. So it's like a workout top. So I feel a little subconscious that I'm wearing like a muscle tee, but it had such a good message, and I figured, well, with brain health, we gotta have a vibe with it. So it's my reminder to always like look for the positive, because I don't want those physical symptoms. No way.
Yeah.
No way. Okay.
I think that, you know, I think that that's a great point. I also think it's about walking the line of picking our own battles, right? Like, what are we allowing ourselves to get affected by severely that maybe if we worked on some healing and some coping skills, we could bounce back faster from those types of things. So it's like, yeah, don't let it get you down, but also don't ignore when something's really affecting you and giving you signs that some deeper work could benefit your mental health, right? So it's a little bit of both, like water off a duck's back to some degree, but also like, let's do the inner work so that we can show up for ourselves and others better, kind of thing.
Yeah. like naming what is actually going on with you and being like, I feel blank. Yeah, no, totally. I did that this morning. I was feeling really overwhelmed and stressed because of my husband working like crazy hours, and I called him and I was like say I feel, don't say you are. And I was like, I feel overwhelmed. And then he kind of was like, well, you knew I was gonna have to do this. And I was like, I'm just putting it out there so that you understand
Yeah.
where I'm coming from. And he was like, okay, yeah, no, thank you. I was like, if I don't tell you it, if I don't state it, then it's just going to be one of those things where it's like a fight that's like below the surface. But if you name it and you say it, then it's like, hey, now you understand like why I'm acting the way I'm acting. So
yeah, I think things that we don't talk about inherently have power over us, right? Because we're not bringing it up. And when we do bring it up, it discharges the power or the hold it has over us, and it releases the hamster from the wheel, that rumination, because we're just going to focus on it, even if it's on the back burner, until something is said or done. And what happens is we repress the hamster wheel and then it explodes. So when you say it at its very first sign, and you're like, you know, hey, I'm feeling this, then you can avoid the complete car crash of it all, right? And it getting to that extent, and then you feel heard and they feel valued, like, oh, they came to me before it got out of hand. So I think it's a really great communication tool for sure. But anyway, I could talk about this all day. Let's keep going. What other questions?
Keep going. All right, next one. Mental illness is not very common. True or false? I'm going to say it's false. It's very common.
Anybody else?
No one else has answered yet, but I think it's false. Yep, we're getting some falses.
Okay. Yeah. So it's estimated that anywhere from about 20 to 25% of American adults and children will experience mental illness at some point in their life. And mental illness, when people hear like some point in their life, some people are like, well, I've always had mental illness. Either you have it or you don't. And I think what some people don't realize is mental illness can actually be triggered by trauma. It can actually be triggered by certain things that have happened, right? And so we can live a life depression and anxiety free, and then something happen later in our life and that create a PTSD, anxiety, depression reaction moving forward, right? So you can develop mental illness at any age. No one is exempt. And yeah, it's very, very common. And people think it's actually more than those statistics because there is some stigma around mental health, so people aren't seeking as much help. Also, the healthcare system and lack of resources to some communities means that they're not able to get the help that they need. So some estimates, when including lack of resource people and people ashamed to ask for help, those numbers are almost doubled at about 40% of adults and children experiencing some level of mental illness at some point in their life. So it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, huge deal. I'd almost say 100%. Experience it at some point in their life, but maybe not 100. Nothing's 100, right? 99.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do the next question. Mental illness is caused by personal weakness or lack of willpower. True or false? 100% false. Not just always.
I mean, my inner critic told myself for the longest time true, but it is absolutely false. It has nothing to do with willpower whatsoever. It has to do with a lot of different factors, like a ton of different factors. And one of the main ones being just our biochemistry and how we're treating our biochemistry. But by and large, it is dictated by neurotransmitters, and that's all part of how our body works. Now, why is our body not working correctly, or our mind, right, in terms of producing what we need, getting rid of the bad, increasing the good? That's dependent on the person, but by no means does it have to do necessarily with willpower per se. Now, I have seen mental illness caused by lifestyle dietary problems. People are severely nutrient deficient, never dealt or developed coping skills as adults, young adults, lots of smoking, alcohol, no sleep, no water. And once those things were improved upon and certain coping skills like journaling, like emotional release were introduced, after a couple of years, there was no sign of mental illness. So mental illness can be a lifelong thing we have to manage, but it can also be because we are very far out of balance with ourselves and taking care of ourselves. And both are possible, and both do not mean weakness, and both require respect and support through their process, whatever that looks like for them.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so the next one is the average attention span of an adult is 5 minutes. True or false? I have never even thought about this one.
What do you
I'm
think?
just gonna I'm gonna take a stab at average. False. I'll go false. Looks like
What
we're
does
getting
everybody
some
else
trues
think?
and some false. Trues and falses, I think, or maybe true. We got a
Uh,
true.
so before social media, our attention span was believed to be about 12 to 15 minutes. Now, about 15 years later, 12 to 15 years later, after social media, smartphones, we're down to 4 to 5 minutes. So
Jeez.
yes, the answer is
Oh,
true.
oh.
Which is
Oh,
shorter,
no, we're on a
officially shorter than a goldfish now.
gonna be like 30 seconds. Gonna be like, if you don't give me like exactly my gratification immediately, swipe.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
I think our culture and our technology is kind of enabling us or conditioning us to be dopamine dependent, instant gratification dependent. And so when we wire that pathway so consistently, it's just going to be the driver of behavior because now we're addicted, right? Yeah, and that's just kind of human nature. So the good news is if we can prime ourselves to get addicted, we can titrate ourselves down and detox to not be addicted and to have longer focus periods. But it just takes time. But yeah, we're down to 4 to 5 minutes, everyone.
And I'm guilty. I will sit and watch a show with my like laptop doing something completely different or my phone scrolling. Like, I think I'm just, yeah, I'm like helping that statistic go down fast. Oh, man.
I think everybody is to a certain extent. You know, I think the most important thing is to, I think, take those breaks in those moments to go, like, for instance, camping or something for a weekend and remove ourselves digitally, reset our receptors, our dopamine receptors. It's like getting addicted to sugar and then you need more and more and more and you kind of feel like crap when you don't have it now. You realize you're addicted. So if you go on like a little detox, you resensitize. And then the next time you go back to sugar, you don't need to eat as much candy to get the same satisfaction. One or two pieces did what one or two bars did before, right? So we can do that, not just with sugar, which is also a dopamine response, but social media, anything that's bringing instant gratification, any, hobby, substance, relationship, whatever. So yeah, we are primed to want dopamine, hence our instant gratification desires. I mean, I've seen my 6-year-old niece just like, it's not loading. I've seen 40-year-old guys just like clicking it 80 times, like, what? It's like, like that's just, where we're at. Huh?
I know it. James is guilty as charged. She's on TikTok right now. So true. It's yeah. This is probably good. Well, it's not. I have my laptop and I have my phone, but my screen. But maybe this is good because it only makes me focus on one conversation for the most part, and then our side conversation. All right, number five. People are able to read the minds of other people. True or false? Ooh, can we read the minds of other people? Maybe. I don't know. That's a tough one. Abby said false. James said true in a way.
Okay.
I'm non-committal.
So the jury's still out on telepathy. Whether or not I can actually hear your internal dialogue in my brain, no, that has yet to be proven. Reading thoughts, for example. However, just like we can be in flow state with ourselves and have that electrical coherence between our brain and our heart, we can actually have coherence with somebody else's flow state, their brain and their heart, and then together we're creating coherence. So this happens with my partner and I all the time. We'll be watching the same thing and we'll both say the same word, or we'll be having the same experience and we'll ask each other a similar question, or he'll say something I'm thinking. So we're not reading each other's minds, but we're in coherence, right? So it's not telepathy per se, but there is a certain level of, I think, familiarity, coherence, and sharing, energy with that in that sense, electromagnetically at least, that you can be on the same wavelength, and then similar answers, thoughts, desires, and things like that start to come up between the people. You can also have that in groups of people, right? If you've ever been a part of a really great brainstorming session with a big group of people, and one person has a great idea and somebody else builds on it, and you build, and then a fourth person, and everybody's riding this wave of coherence. Everybody's just having that same wavelength together. And when you have matched coherence, matched flow state, it seems almost as if you're reading each other's minds, when in reality, we're just in electromagnetic coherence.
That's so cool. I love that. All right, so let's go into one of our supplements. So I have with me here the cognitive support. This formula has 5 milligrams of alpha GPC, 120 milligrams of leaf extract from a small plant with these beautiful white flowers called Bacobo Monterey, and it also has herbal extracts from Ginkgo Biloba and St. John's Wort, and then a couple more too. So Dr. Jacquie, can you tell us a little bit more about these plants? And then she'll tell us about the properties as well in a moment. But each bottle, you're going to get 60 veggie capsules inside of it. And you take one a day. It's $24.99 on Amazon. But when we go live, we actually give you a 20% off deal. You just click the little banner and it automatically takes that off. So that's going to drop your price down. So grab it now. And let's talk a little bit about alpha GPC. So where's the excitement for that coming from?
So the excitement recently, or at least in the last 5 to 10 years, is all around how powerful it is for Alzheimer's. And since we're talking about cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, dementia, stroke, which is essentially like a heart attack in the brain, right? It's a blood clot in the brain. So all of those things have a common underlying issue having to do with reduced blood flow to the brain or vascular problems. Which can affect memory, thinking, all these other conditions. And so alpha GPC has been hugely studied recently because of how protective it is. It's kind of a stimulant similar to like caffeine, but it improves mental and physical performance. It helps with dopamine, choline levels, all of these, different growth hormone secretions that help performance, both mentally and physically. It's really kind of it's one of those substances that really does help all over, essentially, but the highlighted areas that it works the most is going to be cognition, how well our brain is nutrified because of the blood, and then also athletic performance because of blood perfusion to the muscles. So it's pretty powerful across the board. I have tons of studies, but I know we have so many questions for an hour and a half, so I won't go off too far in the studies, but I just think I love the science of it all. So anyway, at some point we should go through it, but it's absolutely fascinating what they found.
That's so cool. Now, does it have, you said it's kind of like coffee in a stimulant sort of format. Is it like a wake up focus, or how does it work in your body?
Yeah. And so essentially, it doesn't have the same anxiety/jittery feeling as caffeine, even though it is similar in the fact that it can stimulate the body, because again, it's kind of waking us up, causing us to be more focused and for our brain to work more effectively and our body to work effectively. I think I did mention this study once, so I'll just throw that in there. But essentially, caffeine group, alpha GPC group, given the same exercises completely before any substance, right? Do this subtraction, multiplication, equations stuff for math, put these list of words in alphabetical order, and then do a lap around this, jog a lap and jump a couple times. And they did that. Then one group was given caffeine, one was given alpha GPC, and one control group was given placebo. And then they were measured yet again. And the alpha GPC group, time and time again, came through with the math, the listing, aka cognition, how our brain works, doing complex multiplication and subtraction and things, doing it minutes faster, seconds to minutes faster than any other group. And then also being able to run seconds faster and jump millimeters to centimeters higher than any other group. So physical athletic performance and mental performance was higher in both groups. Not only that, but in comparison to the caffeine group, there was no jitteriness, anxiety, change in pulse rate, or blood pressure. And then no subsequent crash afterward. So that's the value of alpha GPC. Sounds like, based on the research, because again, I've never used it personally in practice, although I'm super curious to start, is that all the benefits of caffeine with none of the detriments in the form of alpha GPC. And it's going to increase dopamine levels and acetylcholine. And acetylcholine is what helps memory when we're studying and stuff like that. And dopamine is that reward that makes us want to keep doing a task because we're doing it well. So that's another benefit of alpha GPC.
Wow. I feel like there's so much potential for studies there, like with college students, with surgeons, with pilots, with the military, like
you name it. Nurses doing 36-hour shifts. Yes.
Yeah. It truly does what we're saying it can do, then like why wouldn't we all take it all the time? So that's really cool. Well, let's do a quick cognitive test, if I can speak. This is going to find out your ability to concentrate despite distraction or fatigue, but it's just for fun. And this is not a doctor assessment by any means. So if you feel like you might be needing help, just go seek a doctor. Don't hesitate. But as I read the questions, give yourself 1 point if your answer is yes, and no points if your answer is no. Okay, so here we go. 1 point for yes, 0 for no. All right, number 1, my mind tends to drift away when I am working on something. My mind tends to drift away. I'm going to hold my numbers under the table here. 2, if someone is having a conversation nearby while I am working on a task, it breaks my concentration. All right, 1 point yes, 0 points for no. 3, I find myself daydreaming. 4, often I cannot motivate myself to stay focused on something. And 5, we have a few more questions. 5, I can only concentrate in optimal environments. So like the radio turned off, no people around, pets have to be outside. 6, I often need to take a break when I am working intently. And 7, I tend to zone out when I'm doing something boring. All right, so count your scores. I got mine. If you got less than 3 points, then you have some really good strategies to help you concentrate. And maybe, you're doing really well. Congratulations if you got less than 3. All right, if you got more than 3, you likely are finding it difficult to get started on a task and maybe even completing tasks. This can be particularly true when dealing with something boring or complex. So staying focused might feel like work, and it can be draining your energy when you are feeling that way. So you tend to stay focused on like short periods of time, and then you get frustrated if you're distracted and things are taking forever to complete. So Dr. Jacquie, well, first of all, what was your number?
My number was 3.
You were 3. Look at you.
Yeah.
Coping strategy.
But I was the high end of normal.
That's really good. Mine was like 6.
I feel like I should be lower, but yeah.
Only one of mine was like, I was like, I can skip that one. Okay, so among the herbs that it was 6. I was all but 1.
Okay.
But I also wonder if it's a little situational because I have a lot going on right now. So I feel like my distraction level is extra high because I've just I'm kind of like, right. But I don't know, it could just be me too.
It can be circumstantial for sure. You could also answer like in general, if you look back at like the last year on average of your life, the circumstantial is usually 6 weeks or less. So if you've been a sustained level of busy longer, that's chronicity of habits, and then that eventually turns into personality.
Okay, so I'm probably like a 5 or a 6 on that one. But yeah, pretty interesting for me to see that for sure. I don't know if anyone else wants to tell us.
I love stuff like this. It's such great reflection,
Yeah, and there's no right or wrong. I mean, yeah,
no,
it's all good. All right. Oh, and thank you, Trakta. I don't know if I'm saying your name right, but thank you for the follow. Okay, so we have the herbs that are known for improving focus. Really, I should be just like taking these every day of my life. I took one before our show today. I always like to take something before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last time it like kicked in and I was like, oh, this thing works. So today I took it before.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Bacobo, Monterey, and Ginkgo Biloba, St. John's Wort. These are all in the formula. Can you tell us a little bit more about these herbs?
Of course. Okay, so basically they have a couple of things in common. I think the most important things are that they're nootropics, which are known as smart drugs or smart substances. It's a class of substances that essentially boost how our brain performs, right? And there are different mechanisms to how. Some it's more blood flow, some it's the release of acetylcholine, which again helps us store things in long-term memory, dopamine for the reward. So things act slightly differently in the brain, but at the end of the day, regardless of the mechanism, they all have in common that they boost the brain's performance. So first and foremost, I want to start with ginkgo. It's the one I'm the closest with. I've been using the longest, Ginkgo Biloba, since even before medical school. This is very great for blood flow. It's also cardioprotective. So as you're getting blood to your brain, you're also protecting your heart, which is huge. It also helps anything else where blood might flow. So if you have cold hands and feet all the time, erectile dysfunction, if you have thyroid stuff, if you have hair loss, if you have even like helping anti-aging, where blood flow goes, cell restoration goes where blood flow goes. So, I mean, we're only as healthy in at least our body, our tissues, cell turnover, cleaning up old stuff, putting down new stuff. It's only going to be as efficient as the blood flow. So ginkgo's huge for being able to deliver that blood flow to the brain, because the second superpower of this group of herbs that we're going to talk about is that they pass the blood-brain barrier. So the blood-brain barrier is a barrier that we have that protects the brain from certain medications, toxins, drugs. It's very selective, very selective. It only lets a handful of things through because of how protective it is of our brain and our nervous system, and rightly so. So when something can pass the blood-brain barrier, that's really powerful when we're talking about herbs, nutrients, foods, supplements, and things like that. And Ginkgo Biloba, Bacobo Monterey, St. John's Wort, these all pass the blood-brain barrier, which is pretty phenomenal stuff. So we're not just helping the cardiovascular system all over the body and hoping it helps the brain. The ginkgo is actually bypassing the blood-brain barrier and bringing that, increased oxygenated blood, nutrified blood to the brain, helping us work more efficiently. So I thought that was really cool. Now, outside of that, for Bacobo Monterey, could you? I feel like these are just tongue twisters on purpose at this point.
I know.
This is just ridiculous.
Look at it. Nope, not even gonna try it till she says it.
I love it. The Monterey.
It looks like Monterey to me, but is that right?
I love it. So yeah, Monterey. So what does this do? This also passes the blood-brain barrier, but it's going to work in a slightly different way because it is an antioxidant first and foremost. And we've talked about free radicals and oxidative stress, and how free radicals from toxins and pollutants and smoke and alcohol and stress beat up on our healthy cells, healthy brain cells. So we need stuff to go and neutralize those free radicals, right? And help with that oxidative stress. And that's where antioxidants come in. We can eat antioxidants, but not all of them are going to get past that blood-brain barrier, right? Not every herb, substance, or supplement, but Bacobo does. So again, that makes it so powerful. So what is it going to do? Well, because it helps oxidative stress specific to being able to get to the brain, what we see is acetylcholinesterase inhibition, which means it's a fancy word for basically increase of cerebral blood flow. And dendrite regrows. You know how today's Arbor Day?
That's right. I was going to lead with that. See, this is how my concentration is. It's all over the map.
Yeah. Well, today's Arbor Day, which is Tree Day, and arborization means growing branches in the tree growing. And it's funny that we were talking about that earlier, because what Bacobo does is called dendritic arborization, or it gives your brain cells more branches, right? Just like a tree grows more branches when it's nice and healthy and vital, so can our brain cells or our neurons. And, some of these images, you guys, under slides, I am blown away. Like one, I almost instantly teared up because of just how powerful it looked, to know that we can directly affect people with dementia and cognition issues by giving them substances that just make their tree branches grow bigger and fuller, to stick to the analogy at least. So that's what Bacobo is great at. It actually helps the integrity of the cell And so when we have more dendrites, we can create more neural nets. Think about it. You know, if you have more contacts in your list, your message gets sent out to the world. You can reach more people. Well, it's the same with dendrites, right? Dendrites are just the feelers of the neuron. They grab the information, send it down its tail, and on to the next dendrite. And so the more dendrite arms we have, or branches, the more connections we have. And so if this gets damaged over here because of something, we still have a connection, and we can still remember a name, a date, a time, how to brush our teeth, how to drive, right? And so we just take more of a substance and we can create arborization, which is more branches. Okay, so not only can we create more branches, but out of those branches we do create, if any damage occurs, we have compensatory ones to make up for that damage, which is amazing in terms of preventing cognitive decline. And then last but not least, we have St. John's wort, which is nature's antidepressant. It's basically been shown to increase GABA, and GABA is a nice inhibitory neurotransmitter that makes us feel cool, calm. It decreases anxiety, stress, and depression, makes us feel relaxed, but not to the point of too slow and low, but like calm and kind of more grounded feeling is what GABA can help with. And St. John's wort is amazing at helping prevent depression through increasing GABA release. And it also lowers cytokines, which are inflammatory cells. So brain inflammation can cause disease. Well, St. John's wort, prevents that. So lots of really cool stuff happening between these three herbs: blood flow, protection, arborization, GABA levels, being able to help with inflammation and oxidative stress. Super cool, powerful stuff going on. And I have personally worked with these three herbs in practice, and I can speak to their efficacy personally and professionally, which I think is really cool.
Abby wants to know, how much Ginkgo Biloba should people like genuinely take?
That's a good question. It depends on everybody, and it also depends on if you're taking a capsule or a tincture. Capsules usually have additives in them and fillers and powders, and tinctures are more distilled, and so one dropper full could equate to 500 milligrams, but anywhere from 300 to 600 milligrams a day can be considered relatively therapeutic depending on the person for Ginkgo Biloba.
Awesome. Okay, so speaking of Arbor Day, since I forgot to lead with that, hopefully everyone went out and planted a tree today. But if you're like, shoot, I forgot, because you're like me and you forgot it was Arbor Day, I have some really good news. Every single time you buy a supplement, we have partnered with One Tree Planted, and every supplement, we plant a tree in your honor. So if that's not a reason to buy some supplements today, I don't know what is. You're going to have a tree planted in your honor, and it's on Arbor Day. So it's so perfect. You can check out the carousel for all the different herbs all the different supplements that we have available. But of course, if you're into cognitive health like we are, like seriously, if you didn't get this one yet, grab cognitive health. And then mushrooms coming up is like incredible. So definitely throw it in your cart, because you're getting 20% off, and you're helping reforest the planet, which we really need that. All the help. Yay. Thank you, Abby. She said, great segue. I'm awesome. All right. So one question I wanted to ask you, Dr. Jacquie, is what's like a hack if you're having like a really boring task, or maybe it's really complex? What's a hack to help you like stay focused? Miss, well, I got three on my...
I do have the ability to laser focus. I don't know. I think it's just conditioning from just always having my head in a book. I mean, I do have my moments where once it can take I'm a professional procrastinator, but once I get started on something, I do it till it's done. But yeah, I do have issues putting things off, hence my 3. But what I do when I am working on a task personally, what I've seen work with other people, we want to be respectful of our biodiversity, right? So if we have a pre-existing condition like ADD, like ADHD, that we have to take that into consideration. And there are special ways for people with those conditions to stay focused versus someone who would be considered neurotypical, just meaning not having ADD or ADHD. Different things are going to work for them than somebody from that population. And that population tend to be ones who struggle the most with cognition. Not only that, but also the cognitive decline, right, in our elderhood population. So if we're doing tasks that we're not super into, what we can do, and this is really great for ADD, ADHD as well as the general population, because we are primed for dopamine, especially that population, but just humans in general. So if you gamify your task for yourself and you give yourself some sort of healthy incentive that really gets you excited and motivated, your favorite food, a conversation with someone you love, an episode of your favorite show, a walk, a stretch, a workout, you know, a sip of that latte, like whatever floats your boat, something that really kind of feels like that reward dopamine that's going to keep you focused, can sometimes, it is a short-term fix, but it can get you over that initial hump of getting something started if you know you have that thing on the other end. Now, ideally, it's not an instant gratifier that's going to cause more harm than good, like, you know, sugar causing blood sugar crash, which will definitely affect your mood and your focus. Caffeine, same thing. Drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, again, same thing. So we want to shy away from instant gratifiers if we can, and really focus to using healthy, happy, kind of supportive type consequences, rewards, whatever, you know, outcomes that are going to gamify the experience to make it fun, right? Making something fun and interesting for yourself releases that resistance and creates more likelihood of flow state. And sometimes we have to get ourselves prepped. I know for me, mine is like, I'm definitely going to have some sort of chocolate something. I've been on this kick where I've been making like homemade cookie dough lately, and I'll just like, okay, I have to do this first. I'm going to set a timer, and then I get 2 cookies, which is kind of Pavlovian when you think of it, but it does work, right? Also, check in with your body. If you're bored because your body's uncomfortable, get up and stretch, move around, touch your toes. If you have a thought ruminating in your head, write it down, journal for 10 minutes, scream it out into a pillow, you know, call and confront the person you're thinking about, get it out of your mind's eye so that you can get back to focusing. How's your blood sugar going? Is it crashing because all you had was coffee and a donut for breakfast? Have you not eaten at all today? Has it been 4 hours since you've eaten? How is your blood sugar? How's your hydration? Drink, eat, take those moments to, you know, take care of your physical body as well. Getting enough rest also. And last but not least, framework. Some people have a hard time staying focused on something that feels grueling, but they know they need to get through, or they want to get through because the outcome will be good, like a class to get to your degree, or a lesson to learn how to play an instrument, or, you know, a lecture because you need the credit or something like that. Whatever it is, if you can outline your goal and you could do what's called cognitive priming, your likelihood of being successful in that task and staying focused is almost doubled. And what does priming mean? It means you take a moment, you breathe in your body, you close your eyes, and you imagine the perfect outcome of you taking that next hour on that thing. I'm going to have no resistance. I'm going to be excited when I sit at my desk or when I go to do that thing. It's going to be effortless. It's going to be easy. And any resistance is going to fuel me even further. And when I'm done, I get 2 cookies, right? So like priming and seeing the perfect outcome, gamifying with a positive, you know, reward at the end, and paying attention to your physical body and your mental health, you know, feeding your body, giving yourself those breaks, you know, it's really going to be helpful for staying focused when you're in high resistance state.
Yeah, those are so good. I love that. I mean, for me, when I gamify like checklist, to me, it's like a game to like check things off. Like it's super boring. Helps me.
Exactly.
And then the other, yeah, I've worked from home since like before the pandemic, way before as a journalist. And I used to have like, call it office A, office B, and office C. It was like my living room couch was like one, my outside area patio was like office B, and I would just like move around too. To, like, I'd be like, I'm going to office C, which is like when different spots to sit in my house, basically. But that always helped me too, because it was like a like.
No, see, that's great. So you're already creating these kind of changes that you know help you intuitively. So now imagine if like, now that you know yourself intuitively, just naturally and organically, you're like, oh yeah, I did set up those spaces, or I did really respond well to that. Now you can start making it your process. And once you create your process, right? I like tea, I need water, I need to stretch, I need to gamify, whatever your thing is, that's what's going to help make you successful, is recognizing, almost studying yourself, and then applying that mindfully and intentionally and then consistently. That's really what helps skill develop, you know?
Yeah, no, that's so good. And yeah, forcing yourself to do it sometimes too. All right, so let's move to our mushroom supplement, because we talk forever and we don't have that much time to do all of them. Okay, so mushrooms are our next supplement. This one has so many good cognitive health functions to it. So Dr. Jacquie, I'm going to let you jump in and tell us, what is the cognitive function with our mushroom supplements?
So very similar to our herbs, they work really similar. They're all nootropics that pass the blood-brain barrier, which again makes them so beneficial. Now, an extra benefit to mushrooms in the way that they work is they're naturally antimicrobial as well, so they can actually protect from infections. And if we do get an infection, they can help substantially with how our immune system responds to those things. But being a nootropic, or like one of those, brain drugs or brain substances, it improves memory, lowers inflammation, lowers oxidative stress in the brain. They help the brain think faster. They help the nerve transduction happen faster. Also, reishi has a couple of ingredients that gave it its nickname of nature's Xanax, because of how anti-anxiety and calming it is. Also with the immune stimulation and modulation, again, antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, all these awesome magical powers. So they all do a lot of the same things. But if I had to give a keynote, right? So they pass the blood-brain, help the brain work, protect the brain, kill the bad stuff, build up the good stuff. But there are keystones for each mushroom. And I think if I had to get it down, chaga, to me, I think of the immune system and blood sugar. Blood sugar, immune system, just helping it function better. Then when I think of reishi, I think of relaxation, right? Nature's Xanax, but also helping neurons communicate. Just like ginkgo helped that arborization, right? Bacopa. Well, now we have reishi. Now that things are big and nice and grown and all those branches are there, it's going to make the branches work faster and more efficiently. That's reishi. Then, of course, we have lion's mane, which is absolutely beautiful. Google it if you have a second. It really does look like a lion's mane. This is highly protective against dementia specifically, because it targets inflammation and oxidative stress in the brain in particular. And it helps anywhere the blood flows cardiovascularly. So we're looking at heart disease, cancer, ulcers, diabetes, all these things that, blood sugar and cardiovascular stuff is involved. Lion's mane is going to help out with. So yeah, pretty powerful stuff. And they're all plants, which I think is so cool.
Okay, so this is what the capsule looks like for you guys. And you're going to get 60 veggie capsules. And the dose on it is just one that you have to take. This is one of my absolute favorite supplements, you guys. I love this one. And it's $15.99 on Amazon, but you get that extra 20% off. So put that one in your cart if you haven't tried it yet. Love it. It's made here in the USA, GMP certified, thoroughly tested by third-party labs. And they do like all the testing on these. So you're getting really high quality. So some people say that you really want the fruiting bodies only. Dr. Jacquie, is that a good or bad thing?
Yes. So fruiting bodies of mushrooms are pretty much all we really see and know. So mycelium are kind of the interconnected networks of what's underneath the forest floor or the earth's surface, where mushrooms communicate. It's a root system. Also, the way that they replicate a lot of times are spores. And so we're not going to eat the reproductive spores or the root system. We're going to eat the stalk and the cap. And those together are known as the fruiting body. And that's pretty much what we see at the grocery store, what we see out and about when we think about mushrooms, right? But the reason why the fruiting bodies are so important is because it doesn't have the outcome of the reproductive process, like the spores or anything, but it has the reproductive structures. And that is really where there's that valuable source of the magic ingredients that are happening, and why each mushroom has a different action in the body, because that contains slightly different substances. But essentially the fruiting bodies where all the good stuff lies. So yeah, you want to stick to the fruiting bodies for sure. So that's a fantastic thing, that the supplement is comprised primarily of fruiting bodies.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how long have people been using medicinal properties of mushrooms? I know it goes back a long time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I can't even, I mean, in China, reishi, has been used since acupuncture, really, traditional Chinese medicine, 10,000 years ago. When we learned porcupine quills, when we started using those and using food as medicine and jungle herbs and things like that, recognizing mushrooms, and that's when sifting through mushrooms and knowing the different kinds, edible, will kill you kind, will make you see funny stuff kind, right? So we're doing this trial and error with humanity, and different healers in different, little cities and towns are attempting to utilize them. And, historically, there have been mushrooms used for thousands and thousands of years throughout humanity, for sure. And I think now it's like, okay, well, we have proof that they work through, hearsay, or people saying it worked, but what is the mechanism of action? And so probably the last 10 years, they've been studied extensively and are becoming more and more commonplace, and mushroom powder this, and adaptogen coffee powders and additives and all these cool things. Just because history has shown over and over and over again that mushrooms really do what they say they're going to do, thousands of years.
That's awesome.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I know. Probably as long as mushrooms have existed with people, they've been used, I think. So beyond the brain health benefits, is there anything that like lion's mane and reishi and chaga have any other benefits to the body?
Yeah, of course. So outside of being nootropics, protecting the brain, helping the brain function better, chaga, like I was talking before, is going to help with blood sugar, blood cholesterol stabilization, like just helping everything stay level, right? Helping things work more efficiently, also just helping the immune system. And they all kind of inadvertently help the immune system because they fight the bad guys, because they're antimicrobial, right? So they fight bacteria, fight viruses, fungi, all that stuff. So they're going to help the immune system. But I think chaga, more importantly, is lowers blood sugar, helps balance it, and then helps give us normal cholesterol levels. When it comes to reishi, this is the one that helps, again, stimulate the nerve growth and communication with neurons. But it's also what's called an adaptogen, if you've ever heard that word. Adapt means, adaptogen is a substance that helps us adapt better to stress. It helps our adrenal glands, which are responsible for producing things like cortisol, adrenaline, like those stress hormones released when we're freaking out and in fight or flight. The cool thing about reishi is it's adaptogenic. So it helps the adrenal glands be more efficient. So you release less of the stuff that's making you crazy, and you stay even keeled in terms of your response to stress, which is really helpful. Really makes those adrenal glands have integrity, which is huge. I think most of us in America need it. And then last but not least, with the lion's mane, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, immune boosting. And I mentioned this before, but it's so vascular. It helps wherever blood goes. So it's going to protect the heart. It's going to protect the liver. It's going to help with blood sugar. It's going to help with ulcers and things like that. Again, anything related to blood flow or blood issues, lion's mane is really going to be fantastic helping out with that. So they all have really fantastic, powerful things outside of the brain protection, and they help all systems. It really does go everywhere.
That's awesome. All right. Well, we have one more supplement I want to get to, and that's our sleep support. This one launched within the last month, and it's really good if you are someone who just sleeping, or maybe you travel a lot and you deal with jet lag. It could be really good for that too. It's 20% off right now on Amazon, so you can always give it a day, and give it a try. And our return policy is 60 days. So if you took half of it and you're like, it works, just send it back. Like seriously, you're allowed to do that. It's crazy. So that's how much confidence there is that you will love it. That's a really good return policy. So let's talk about
Yeah.
some sleep problems. Where do they come from, and are there any daily habits that we can start doing to help us with better sleep?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think we are kind of overstressed and overcaffeinated and all nutrient deficient and probably dehydrated. I think most Americans run to that level of just spreading ourselves thin, right? We're learning slowly but surely the importance of self-care. And not just aftercare, like we've been through the shitstorm and then we're going to help ourselves and do something about it, right? That aftercare that a lot of people say is self-care, to me, that's aftercare. Self-care is, okay, I'm going to run into a shitstorm. What can I do to prepare? What skills, tools, and things can I make available to me when and if I check in throughout said storm and I'm freaking the heck out? Who can I talk to? What should I eat? How do I sleep? How do I rest? Right? That's self-care, is having the plan, checking in, being consistent, not just the I'm going to run on coffee and sugar alone and just grind it out and then I'll be nice to myself, right? So there's an inherent difference there. That comes down to lifestyle. So what do? Lots and lots of caffeine clearly affects our sleep for most of us. Our monkey mind, aka the hamster wheel brain, we're just on thoughts and we can't let go, dog on a bone. But do we journal about it before bed? Do we have a worry list in our nightstand where we write it all down and get it out on paper so we can rest mindfully? No. So those types of skills, right? Physical pain. Lots of people carry around a lot of physical pain and they can get physically comfortable in bed. Stretching, hot baths, taking a long walk, doing something to relax those muscles is going to be huge for something like that. I see a lot of people with magnesium deficiency thinking they have restless leg syndrome and they just can't sleep. When in reality, we give them some magnesium glycinate and a week later they're sleeping like babies, no restless leg syndrome, all because they were nutrient deficient. So these are just a handful of the common things I see getting in the way of most people's sleep is the monkey mind, the caffeine, nutrient deficiency, body pain, and then just quick and easy ways to address those things.
When should someone go to see someone like yourself or a doctor? Like at what point do you say, okay, I have a problem?
Really good question. If you have not been able to get solid sleep for about 4 weeks, that's when you know. If it's been severely inconsistent, maybe you get 1 to 2 nights a week, if that, of going to sleep, staying asleep, and waking feeling rested. So you could get 8 hours and wake up just as exhausted as when you went to bed. Like, that's also not quality sleep. So you're probably sleeping shallow, or the sleep that you are getting isn't restful or repairing, right? You're still stressed, you're clenching your jaw, you're having super shallow sleep, so your body can't fully rest. So if any of that stuff is happening, waking feeling exhausted or more tired, it impeding your quality of life, not getting quality sleep for at least 4 weeks. Now it's moved into the more chronic phase and asking for help, getting the appropriate tests, something like that would be really helpful. Waking up a lot during the night, gasping for air. If you or your partner shares with you, hey, you've been gasping for air like you're being suffocated, sleep apnea could be a problem, adding to your insomnia or sleep problem. If you just recently started a new medication, you want to be careful about that because some medications won't make it super clear, hey, don't take me after 4 p.m. because I'm going to keep you up, right? Same with supplements. A lot of people are taking their multivitamin at night, chock full of B vitamins. Well, B vitamins are meant to give you energy so they can stimulate you and keep you awake. So understanding when the timing of taking things. But if you have any sort of nerve pain, restless legs, heartburn, physically you just can't get comfortable, and again, all of this is happening for 3 to 4 weeks or more, I would definitely seek professional help to get you the support you need to get you resting. Sleep is very important.
So important. Okay, so do we really need 8 hours? Can people function on 4 hours? I'll work.
This is such a good question. I get it all the time. So I will say that a lot of people say 7 to 9 hours, usually because we were trying to strive for like, as in terms of science, like what's a great number, right? But essentially 7 to 9 is just a lot for a lot of people. 6 to 9 is usually ideal. And it's not a huge difference from 7 to 9 or the solid 8. But the reason why the 6 to 9 window started developing is because of circadian rhythms, which are our 24-hour body clock. Every hour, we are associated to a different change in our body. When our body starts releasing the sleep hormone melatonin versus when it starts releasing the morning hormone cortisol, right? Which is also the stress hormone. But in a little bit, not too much, it makes us wake refreshed and ready to go. It's a lot of it that gives us the stress response, right? But we naturally produce that. And then when our body is producing other chemicals throughout the day, that has to do with appetite and temperament. Those are all circadian rhythms. And as we've evolved to have them, to sleep at night, to wake during the day. And what we found when we studied sleep is that sleep cycles, which are smaller cycles within the greater cycle, that is the circadian rhythm, right? From midnight to midnight, let's say in a 24-hour period, we have one specific cycle. Well, within that, we have tiny little sleep cycles, and we found that they run on about 90-minute increments. And so if you've had a 20 or 30-minute nap and woken up worse than before, it's because you woke up probably mid-sleep cycle instead of waiting through the full 90 minutes where you would have been more shallow sleeping and you would have wakened more refreshed. So 6 to 9 hours is ideal if you can do it. And it just depends on you and your lifestyle as well. People who do less, wear and tear on their body need less rest time, right? People who are taking better care of themselves don't need to sleep or rest. People who are sick, sleep more, sleep the 9 hours. When you're really vital and you're feeling great and taking care of yourself, if 6 feels good, 6 feels good. But 6 and 9 are both obviously multiples of 1.5, which is 90 minutes. So that's why they came up with that.
Oh, that's so interesting. Wow. I used to always say I'm like a koala bear and I like to sleep 9 hours. I was like, I love sleep. And then I kind of 6 hours is fine. I mean, it's kind of amazing. Your body can change and adjust, but I've never been one that could do like 4 or 5. Do not work on that.
Yeah, I can't do 4 or 5 either. I mean, even my naps are 3 hours minimum. Like I can't nap for shorter than that. That's why I don't really nap. And it's, I just need to ride those cycles out. And so, yeah, I can't do the 4 or 5 either. And I think people who do 4 to 5 have probably conditioned themselves. And so their body is just conditioned to it. Whether or not, I mean, we could be conditioned to certain tolerances of toxic substances too. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily a great thing for our body, because I think our body would naturally benefit from more sleep than less. But again, it's all relative in the window. Sleeping 12 to 15 hours a day could mean depression or fibromyalgia or physical issue, right? So, we want to stay within that, but definitely give the body what it needs. And I agree with you. I think 4 to 5 is just a little too low.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we don't have too much time because I have to pick up my kids from daycare soon, but I want to go real quickly over just some of the benefits in this sleep support. So do you remember the ingredients? Is there anything you want to highlight, or do you want me to tell you what they are?
Well, I mean, I remember L-theanine, GABA, 5-HTP, basically all the precursors and or stuff that makes our brain work better. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, those are all in there. And then there's also the, I think there's melatonin in there as well.
Okay. So essentially what we want to do for sleep is we want to make sure that we're in a restful state and we can give our body certain substances that help feed that pathway, right? Meaning making it more likely that we're going to sleep soundly and we're going to stay asleep. So the first thing is the GABA. GABA, I think of all the G words. I think I tried to do this last time we talked neurotransmitters, but if you can remember GABA, think of G words. Good vibes, gentle, good feelings, right? Everything is just like, GABA is the mother of neurotransmitters, right? You feel safe, you feel relaxed, no anxiety, you feel balanced, you're not in pain, none of that's happening, right? GABA is being released. We talked about the St. John's wort helping with that GABA release. There are tons of other herbs that can help with that as well, like valerian, chamomile, all that good stuff. So that's really helpful to have right there in the delivery system, right? AKA capsule or tincture or whatever. So the next thing is 5-HTP. It sounds really fancy, but it essentially just means that it's something that feeds the serotonin pathway, because the body, and I know you have to go soon, but I think this is really important for Bowcam.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. So the body's a bunch of little factories. If we don't have enough ingredients to run through the factory, we don't have enough of the final product, right? Well, our body does 5-HTP into serotonin into melatonin. 5-HTP feeds serotonin, and we feel good with a cup of tea and a warm blanket on a rainy day, like that cozy feeling is serotonin. Also mood and appetite stabilization. And then when it starts to get dark out, if we have good enough serotonin, our body turns it into melatonin. And it's like, ooh, now that you feel all safe and snuggly, let's just go to sleep. Okay, so 5-HTP feeds that pathway or gives our body the ingredients to make serotonin, to make melatonin, to help get us to sleep. So it sounds like the supplement is really bookending that pathway by not only giving the precursor or thing that feeds the pathway, but the outcome substance, which is melatonin. So it's making sure we are getting that hormone that helps us sleep, i.e. melatonin, right? And then the last thing is L-theanine. And L-theanine is an amino acid. Amino acids coming from proteins, which is awesome. And what it helps do is it helps calm the nervous system down by helping add to the production of glutamine, glutamate, that whole pathway. And again, that's going to help with GABA production. That's going to help with glutamate production, which is important for nerves and the brain and relaxation. So theanine, again, just like 5-HTP feeds that pathway, theanine feeds this pathway for relaxation and different substances to be created, and mainly glutamate. Here we get melatonin on the outside. Here we get glutamine turning it into glutamate, which also helps us feel relaxed. So basically, neurochemically, herbally, a little bit of everything going on, amino acid, we are really working to drive the sleep pathway, the relaxation pathway, when combining substances like this.
Nice. That's awesome. So Lavi, I think I'm saying her name right, or maybe he, said, I heard fibromyalgia. What were you saying about it? Real quickly, were you connecting that to the topic of sleep or cognitive?
Well, yeah. So a lot of people, so fibromyalgia, for those of you who don't know, is called idiopathic. We don't know what causes it. We don't know the issue, but all we know is some people walk in, tons of physical pain, and there's nothing causing it. There's not a genetic issue, nerve issue, disc issue. There's not any sort of issue that we can find. We just know that they're constantly, their trigger points, their aches and pains are always lit up, right? So to get out of that, what will end up happening is sometimes people in chronic pain become depressed, and a way to get out of that is to sleep. So what we were talking about is there being a perfect window, 4 or 5 hours being too little, 6 to 9 being the sweet spot, even if you need 9 or 10 or 11. But if we're getting on the outskirts of 12, 15, 18, I mentioned that fibromyalgia, depression, or other things associated to severe mental pain or physical pain, that could be a sign, right? So I was just kind of giving an example of what too much sleep, what potential underlying issues could be driving that is all. I just kind of throw out a suggestion.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's wrap up. I just thought the whisper on this one's so good. I know we didn't get into what the whispers are. So if you don't know what they are, each bottle gives you this really cool charm. And this one on the sleep one says, over every mountain, there is a path. And I just thought that was really good. I hadn't seen that one before. So over every mountain, there's a path. And they're really just something to think about before you go to sleep or whenever you're taking them. And that's just like perfect mind-body connection that we've been talking about, where you're just like, ah! And it's like, there's a path. There's everything. No matter how steep that mountain is, there's a path. So it's a really cool, just that Middle World Herbs goes that extra mile by putting these cool things on there. So
what time do you have to wrap today?
Why do I have to wrap, or when?
Oh, no, just when. Yeah, when.
Oh, pretty soon, because I got to go, actually, like right now. I got to
go. Okay, so sorry. See, I'm thinking we had the full hour and a half. So I was like, we still have 10 minutes to do the last supplement. So I'm sorry that I didn't know you had to go a little early. But
I know. No, I didn't mention it. Like,
not at all. Just so I know. Yeah. Because I was like, oh, yeah, we still have 10 minutes. And you're like, I have to go 5 minutes ago. Oh, sorry about that.
All right. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Dr. Jacquie. We'll be back, guys. Hit the follow button. Hang out with us next week. We'll be back. And then we're going to start doing probably 2 times a week. So you get lots of chances to hang out with us. And yeah, my schedule will get maybe a little else crazy. We'll see. All right. Well, goodbye, everyone. Love to drag out our ending,
I
but I
hope
really
you
do
guys
have
have
to
a great night
run.
and enjoy your weekend. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Hear the whispers from within, balance to restore, ailings to relieve. Feel the nature keeping us, nature healing us. Flowers, leaves, and roots within. Hear the mind calming you, soothing you. Love and kindness inside out. Let the herbs from middle world heal. Welcome wellness, welcome wellness. It's revealed herbs, middle world herb.